Oasis Audio presents The Tea Shop Mysteries by Darlene Franklin, Cynthia Hickey, Linda Baton-Johnson, and Teresa Ives Lilly. Read for you by Teri Schnaubelt. Petite four to die for. Teresa Ives Lilly. Chapter 1. I tied the pink, green, and yellow-striped apron around my waist, covering my blue jeans and the solid pink polo shirt that was part of my uniform. The apron made me appear a bit old-fashioned, but that's how I needed to look if I was going to make this thing work. Taking over the daily running of my grandmother's tea shop, Tea by the Sea, was the last thing I ever expected to do with my life. But I sincerely hoped it would turn out to be the best thing. None of the many jobs I had in the past suited me at all. Plus, my boyfriend of 2 years told me he was moving across country, and I wasn't invited to go along with him. That was the moment I realized there was only one thing to do. I moved to Maine and went to work in Gran's tea shop. Until a few weeks ago, I wasn't ready. I thought life in the big city of San Antonio was where I was supposed to be. But hey, after all the failed jobs and the final straw, a failed relationship, even I understood the writing on the wall. I was meant to be a small-town girl, and you can't get much smaller than Seaside, Maine. Gran always knew that about me, and she'd been waiting patiently. At first, she tried to get her own daughters to help take over the tea shop, but they weren't really small-town girls. When I finally called and asked if I could come to Seaside, she chuckled over the line and said, "It's about time. I've been waiting for you to come help me run this place for years." So it was settled. I packed what little I owned, shipped it to Maine, hopped on the next flight to the airport nearest Seaside, and took a bus to the middle of town. Of course, not having a car, even in a small town, proved to be a bit of a problem, especially as winter began to set in. Just thinking about how cold my toes would be every day before I reached the tea shop, which was only a few blocks away from the small apartment I'd rented, made me imagine ways to convince Gran how much we needed a company vehicle, one I could use to drive back and forth to work. At this point, I'd been working at the shop for a full 2 weeks. At first, I was just going over the books, learning how to do the ordering and taking care of payroll. However, Gran wanted me to spend the third week mingling with the customers. No, she didn't make me a waitress, but she wanted the regulars to meet me and get to know me better. Gran wanted everyone to be comfortable with the change if she ever completely turned over the reins to me. Gran was a hoot from the moment I arrived. She talked incessantly about writing a cookbook and perfecting English tea. I got the feeling that even though she was in her 70s, something about one of her customers, Sir Geoffrey, had caused her sudden interest in English tea. But that was none of my business. Believe me, I wasn't about to start trying to play Cupid. I couldn't even keep my own relationship together, and it was just too bad. Jason was handsome, muscular, and a lawyer to boot. He was everything I thought I wanted in a man. There was only one problem. He just didn't love me. "I guess the apron looks fine." I took it off and put it in my purse. Then I tugged on my boots. They were perfect for San Antonio, chic, the newest fashion in cowboy boots. Here, in this little coastal town, I knew I was going to have to exchange them for a pair of warm, fur-lined snow boots. I wished I'd already done that, because it had begun snowing the previous night. The thermometer outside my window told me it was going to be a very cold day. I slumped my shoulders. It was all part of my problem. I was never in the right place at the right time. Gran said not to worry. "You're in the perfect place at the perfect time now that you're here." I wasn't sure there was such a thing as perfection. As I walked along the freshly shoveled sidewalk in front of the stores from my apartment complex to the corner of Main and 5th Street, I turned my head to the left and shivered. The ocean, or sea, as Gran and most of the old-timers called it, was silent and the bay frozen. It was so majestic, but rather frightening at the same time to see such power standing still. The morning snowfall blanketed the town beautifully. If I weren't already freezing, I would have stayed outside the shop just to breathe in the clean, frigid air. This was Monday, though, and the week was just beginning. The bell jangled over the front door of the tea shop as I pushed it open. Gran
Sample complete. Ready to continue?